Imagine two tribes going to war, and both of them are, like, completely 100% convinced that they possess the absolute moral high ground.
Right, neither side thinks they're the villain.
Exactly. They aren't fighting because they're evil or malicious. They're actually fighting because, well, biology designed morality to be a weapon.
Which really completely upends the way we view human goodness.
It does. I mean, we grow up thinking of morality as this universal blanket of peace, right? Like the angel on our shoulder that elevates us above the animal kingdom.
Yeah, but the reality of evolutionary biology suggests something entirely different. It suggests that morality evolved for a highly specific, highly competitive purpose, basically to help your specific group defeat the group next door.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we are exploring the brilliant and slightly unsettling framework laid out in the book Moral Tribes by cognitive neuroscientist and philosopher Joshua Greene.
It's a fantastic read.
It really is. And our mission for you today is to decode why perfectly good, well-meaning people are locked in bitter, seemingly unsolvable societal conflicts.
And more importantly, to discover the mental shortcut we can use to actually bridge the gap between us and them.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this
Yeah.
by stripping human society down to its absolute bare bones.
Greene does this really well through a thought experiment. He calls it the parable of the new pastures.
I love this part.
Yeah, it's so helpful. So to understand the friction in modern politics, or even just, a heated argument at your Thanksgiving table, picture a deep, dark forest.
Okay.
And surrounding this forest, on the 4 points of the compass, are 4 completely distinct tribes of sheep herders. Each tribe has developed a totally different operating system for survival.
Right. So to the east, we have the strict egalitarians.
Right.
For them, equality is the ultimate moral good. Every single family gets the exact same number of sheep, no matter what.
No exceptions.
Exactly. Greene notes that in their history, a family once tried to breed these giant, genetically superior sheep to get more wool.
And you'd think they'd be rewarded for innovation, right?
But no, the tribal council actually stepped in and punished them. You do not outshine your neighbor in the East, because inequality is viewed as a literal threat to their social cohesion.
Yeah. And then, if you look to the West, we find a needs-based tribe. Their moral compass dictates that the size of your flock depends strictly on the size of your family.
So bigger family, bigger flock.
Exactly. A family with 12 kids gets a massive flock to support them. But there's a pretty brutal flip side to this system.
Yeah, this part is dark.
It is. Because if that family loses a child to illness, their flock is reduced accordingly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, their material wealth shrinks right alongside their tragic loss. And critics of this system argue that just compounds the family's suffering.
Right. But then up north, the culture is entirely different. The northern tribe is fiercely individualistic.
No shared pastures at all.
None. Everyone has their own plot of land surrounded by a sturdy fence. Your wealth depends entirely on your own hard work, or your luck, or what you inherited. If you earn it, you keep it.
But the downside to that emphasis on total freedom is that every winter, some folks in the north freeze or starve because they just had a bad year.
And the tribal council sees absolutely no moral obligation to intervene.
Right. Finally, down in the South, we have the extreme collectivists.
The complete opposite.
Totally. They share everything. The pasture is communal, the sheep are communal, and a central council manages the herd and assigns everyone specific jobs.
So nobody starves in the South.
Right. The safety net is absolute. But on the negative side, there is constant social strife. Just endless complaining about lazy workers coasting on the hard work of others.
And very little incentive for innovation.
Exactly.
You know, thinking about this, it feels like looking at different smartphone operating systems.
Yeah.
Like the Eastern tribe is running one OS, the Northern tribe is running another.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
They all make the phone work. Like they all function as moral systems that successfully keep their specific tribe alive and reproducing. But their apps are completely incompatible with each other.
A Northern app simply will not open on a Southern device.
Right. But I have to ask, are these tribes just a cute thought experiment? Or is this exactly what we're looking at in the real world right now?
Well, that incompatibility becomes violent when the inciting incident of our parable happens. A massive fire burns that central forest to the ground.
Leaving all this open land.
Right. When the rains return, that charred forest turns into a massive expanse of beautiful, green, rolling hills. the new pastures.
And naturally, all four tribes rush in to claim this fertile land,
And suddenly they are forced to live side by side.
which triggers absolute chaos. Bloodshed erupts, but, and this is the key, it's not a war of pure greed.
No, not at all.
They are fighting because they have fundamentally incompatible visions of what a moral society looks like. It gets incredibly messy when outsiders arrive with totally arbitrary, localized rules.
Yeah, like suddenly feuds break out because one tribe bans singing on Wednesdays.
Right, or another demands that women cover their earlobes. Or they refuse to let black sheep sleep near white sheep.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this parable is the exact blueprint of our modern world. The new pastures are real.
We're on them right now.
We are living on them right now, thanks to globalization and the internet. What Greene calls the tragedy of common sense morality is the defining tragedy of modern life. These aren't just abstract scholarly debates. They are deeply felt, everyday philosophies that are driving our most intense conflicts.
You know, what's really important when we look at these modern debates, whether it's healthcare or the economy, is that we have to be absolutely neutral here.
Right.
Greene's framework forces us to strip away our own political biases. We aren't looking at this to say the North or the South is right, or that one specific political party has the moral high ground.
No, we are purely observing the psychological operating system running beneath all of them.
Exactly. We are just exploring how the book categorizes these viewpoints as expressions of different moral tribes.
And observation is really the only way to understand the mechanics of the conflict. Take the northern tribe, our individualists, and the southern or eastern tribes are collectivists.
Okay.
Look at how their deeply held moral algorithms clash over something like healthcare. In the United States, the debate over the Affordable Care Act perfectly mirrors the tribes on the new pastures.
Right. The book actually highlights a really revealing moment from a 2012 presidential primary debate.
Oh, the Ron Paul moment.
Yes. A journalist asked candidate Ron Paul a hypothetical question. He asked, what should happen to a healthy 30-year-old who actively decides not to buy health insurance, but then suddenly falls into a coma and needs 6 months of intensive care?
Does society pay for it?
Exactly. And Ron Paul essentially argued that freedom means taking your own risks. And the crowd's reaction was visceral. Several people actually started yelling, let him die.
And see, that moment is the ultimate expression of the Northern Tribe philosophy.
Right.
It prioritizes individual freedom and personal responsibility as the absolute highest possible moral goods. You make your choices, you reap the rewards, and you alone suffer the consequences.
Intervening would literally violate their moral code of self-reliance.
Exactly. But the southerly tribes view that logic as completely barbaric. To a collectivist, basic health care is a shared moral obligation.
Right. It's about the greater good.
Yeah. Even if it requires everyone to sacrifice a little freedom or, a portion of their wealth through taxes, just to ensure no human being is left to die.
We see those exact same tribal lines drawn over the economy, too. I mean, think back to the 2008 financial bailouts.
Oh, definitely.
The Northern mindset was incredibly vocal. They were like, let the banks fail, let the homeowners facing foreclosure take the hit. They made bad bets in a free market.
Meanwhile, the Southern mindset, even if they completely despised Wall Street greed, they argued that intervention was morally necessary to save the collective economy.
Because a catastrophic collapse would hurt everybody.
Exactly. That southerly egalitarian cry against the unequal distribution of wealth, that became the driving force behind the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Right, with their defining slogan, we are the 99%.
Yes. And then in stark contrast, you had Mitt Romney's infamous leaked comment during his campaign.
The 47% comment.
Right. Where he talked about the 47% of the population who he claimed were government dependents refusing to take personal responsibility.
That is Northern individualism clashing directly and very loudly with Southern collectivism.
Absolutely. And Greene even points to Elizabeth Warren's viral campaign speech as sort of a textbook Southern manifesto.
Oh, where she said nobody got rich on their own.
Exactly. Her argument was, look, if you built a successful factory, you moved your goods on public roads, you hired workers educated by public schools, you were protected by public police forces.
So the collective paved the way for your individual success.
Right. Therefore, you morally owe a hunk of that success back to the tribe.
The divide even infiltrates issues that shouldn't really be philosophical, like global warming.
Oh, yeah. The scientific data itself becomes heavily tribalized.
Because mitigating climate change requires massive, coordinated collective sacrifice. It demands that individuals alter their personal behavior and accept economic friction for the sake of the whole planet.
And that requirement inherently triggers the individualist's moral alarm bells regarding personal liberty, while at the same time, it perfectly aligns with the collectivist's focus on the greater good.
Okay, so I hear all of this, and the mapping makes perfect sense. But I have to push back a little on Greene's premise here.
Go for it.
Wait, isn't a lot of this just pure selfishness disguised as politics? Are people really acting out of morality here? Like, if I'm a billionaire CEO, of course I'm going to adopt a northern keep what you earn philosophy. It protects my bank account.
That's a really fair question, but to answer that, we have to look under the hood at what morality actually is from a mathematical and biological perspective.
Right.
We need to zoom out from these macro-level societal clashes and look at the micro-level mathematics of human cooperation. Greene makes a really vital distinction between two different evolutionary problems.
Right. Garrett Hardin's classic tragedy of the commons and Greene's new tragedy of common sense morality.
Exactly. So the classic tragedy of the commons is the problem of me versus us.
Okay.
It's the tension between my selfish desire to take more than my fair share of the communal pasture and the well-being of my group.
And to understand the psychology here, we don't even need to look at macro conflicts like arms races. Greene distills it down beautifully, using the classic prisoner's dilemma.
Oh, the bank robber.
Yeah, Art and Bud. So Art and Bud get caught by the police. But the cops only have enough evidence to convict them of a minor tax evasion charge, which is a 2-year sentence.
Right.
To get a conviction for the massive bank robbery, the police need a confession.
Yeah.
So they separate Art and Bud into different interrogation rooms and offer them both the exact same deal.
The choices in this matrix are stark. You either confess or you keep quiet.
Right. And if Art and Bud both keep quiet, meaning they trust each other and cooperate, they only get 2 years each.
Greene calls this the magic corner. It is the absolute best possible collective outcome.
But if Art confesses and Bud keeps quiet, Art gets a sweetheart deal of just 1 year and Bud gets slammed with 10 years.
And vice versa.
Exactly. The kicker is, if they both act selfishly, both trying to screw the other guy over by confessing, they both get 8 years.
So put yourself in Art's shoes as a purely rational, purely selfish actor. He runs the math.
Right.
If Bud keeps quiet, I should confess to get 1 year instead of 2. And if Bud confesses, I definitely need to confess to get 8 years instead of 10.
So no matter what Bud does, the math says Art should confess.
Exactly. The pure logic of self-interest exerts this inescapable gravitational pull, forcing both of them to confess.
And because they both follow that selfish logic, they both end up with 8 years in prison. It's a disaster. They completely miss the magic corner.
Pure rationality leads to collective ruin. That is the me versus us problem. And what's fascinating here is that is exactly where morality enters the evolutionary picture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, morality is not some abstract, ethereal concept of just being a nice person. Morality is a suite of psychological machinery designed by evolution, specifically to keep human beings in the magic corner.
It's the literal gut feeling of guilt.
Exactly, or the flesh of empathy, or that deep sense of loyalty that makes Art keep his mouth shut to protect Bud. Morality is a biological adaptation that allows a group of humans to reap the massive survival benefits of cooperation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Right.
If morality is this brilliant biological tool that evolved to solve the me versus us problem,
Okay.
why do we have the U.S. versus them problem?
Right.
Why are those 4 tribes on the new pastures violently slaughtering each other over Wednesday singing rules?
Well, because we have to remember the fundamental engine of evolution, which is competition. Evolution is a zero-sum game. Think about cheetahs on the savannah. Faster cheetahs catch more prey, have more cubs, and pass on the fast genes.
Sure.
But that mechanism only works because cheetahs are competing for a limited food supply. If the savannah had an infinite supply of slow-moving gazelles, the slow cheetahs would eat just as much, and speed would offer absolutely no evolutionary advantage.
Without a loser, evolution can't select a winner. The trait only survives if it crushes the competition.
Precisely. So apply that ruthless logic to human cooperation.
Oh.
Cooperative tendencies are moral emotions. They could only evolve if they gave the cooperators a distinct survival advantage over the non-cooperators.
So a group of moral herders who trust each other will preserve their pasture, grow their population, and develop better tools.
And then they will use those advantages to outcompete, conquer, or assimilate the selfish herders who destroyed their own resources.
The implication of that is actually staggering. I mean, morality didn't evolve to make us universally good. It evolved as the biological weapon to put us ahead of me, specifically so that us could effectively crush them.
Yeah, that is the evolutionary glitch at the very heart of human nature. Morality evolved to solve the tragedy of the commons within our specific group, but it achieved that by fueling the tragedy of common sense morality between groups.
We are biologically hardwired to cooperate fiercely with our own tribe, primarily so we can dominate the neighboring tribe.
Exactly.
So you're saying morality is fundamentally tribal. Doesn't that mean we are biologically doomed to racism, xenophobia, and endless wars? Are we just fighting our own DNA?
I know, it sounds incredibly bleak. But Greene's ultimate conclusion is actually profoundly optimistic, because biology is not destiny.
Okay.
Just because a biological mechanism evolved for one specific competitive purpose millions of years ago doesn't mean we are forever chained to that purpose today.
It's almost like what we did with our massive frontal lobes. Biologically speaking, human beings evolved these incredibly complex, energy-hungry brains for one reason: to navigate our environment long enough to reproduce. Passing on genetic material is the biological endgame.
Right.
But once we got those big brains, we used them to invent birth control.
And what's fascinating here is how perfectly that analogy captures Greene's point. We took the very tool evolution gave us to maximize reproduction, and we used it to actively limit our reproduction,
Right.
prioritizing our own personal goals, careers, or comfort instead. We essentially hacked our own programming.
We used our brains to outsmart our biology.
Greene calls this kicking away the evolutionary ladder. And we can do the exact same thing with our moral circuitry.
How so?
Well, nature gave us a moral brain to help our ancient localized tribe win a turf war. But we can use that same complex brain to kick away the ladder. We can actively choose to care about a refugee on the other side of the planet.
We can choose to donate our resources to faraway strangers we will never even meet.
Exactly. From a strict ancestral biological perspective, donating to global charity is a glitch. But from a modern philosophical perspective, that glitch is our salvation.
So if biology isn't destiny, how do we practically execute this hack? I mean, how do we rewire our brains to bridge the gap between our deeply ingrained tribal instincts and the people we disagree with on these crowded new pastures?
To understand the hack, we really have to look at the neuroscience of how the brain physically processes moral decisions.
Okay.
Greene uses the metaphor of a digital camera to explain the brain's dual process architecture. Your brain essentially has two distinct modes: automatic settings and a manual mode.
Right. The automatic settings are like switching a camera to portrait mode. Yeah. You don't have to adjust the aperture or the shutter speed. The camera just knows what to do instantly.
Right. And in our brains, this represents the amygdala and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex firing off gut-level moral emotions: empathy, anger, guilt, disgust.
And those automatic settings are incredibly fast, right?
Yeah, super fast, highly efficient, but they are entirely inflexible. They are fantastic for solving the daily me versus us problems.
Like if you see someone drop their wallet, your automatic setting kicks in and you hand it back. You don't freeze and calculate the socioeconomic variables. Your gut just tells you it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. But the fatal flaw is that these automatic settings were calibrated by evolution and culture for your specific tribe. They are trained on your local customs, your specific religion, your community norms. So when your automatic settings encounter someone from the northern tribe who possesses a completely different set of automatic settings, your brain's alarms go off. You feel visceral disgust or righteous outrage.
So that feeling of outrage is actually your signal that it is time to switch to manual mode.
Yes. Manual mode relies on the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. That's our general capacity for conscious, practical reasoning.
It's slow.
Very slow, it burns a lot of cognitive energy, and honestly, it feels highly unnatural. But it is infinitely flexible. It allows us to step back, override our gut reactions, and analyze a clash of values objectively.
And once we force ourselves into manual mode, we need a framework to help us make a decision, right? Greene argues that just as we use basic automatic morality to adjudicate conflicts between individuals, we desperately need a meta-morality to adjudicate conflicts between competing tribes.
This raises an important question, though. What does that meta-morality actually look like? Greene calls it deep pragmatism, which is essentially his modernized rebranding of the philosophy of utilitarianism.
Right.
The core idea is that to survive on the new pastures, we need a common currency to weigh competing tribal values against each other.
So deep pragmatism isn't just cold, calculating robot logic. It's more about figuring out the exchange rate between my tribe's values and your tribe's values.
Exactly. Think of it quite literally as an exchange rate. If the northern tribe uses gold coins and the southern tribe uses silver, They simply cannot trade until they establish how much one is worth relative to the other.
Right.
Deep pragmatism provides that exchange rate by stripping away the arbitrary tribal rules, the proper nouns, the sacred texts, the localized taboos. It asks one foundational question:
Which is,
what action will produce the highest quality of overall experience for the maximum number of conscious beings involved?
okay, let's apply that to a real-world scenario, like building a public school. The Northern Tribe's automatic setting says taxation is theft, violating the moral good of freedom.
Right.
But the Southern Tribe's automatic setting says unequal education is an atrocity, violating the moral good of equality.
So deep pragmatism forces both sides into manual mode. It asks, does the temporary friction of taxing the Northerners slightly reduce their happiness? Yes.
But does providing education to 100 Southern children exponentially increase their lifelong happiness and reduce their suffering? Also, yes, the math favors the school.
And this requires real compromise. Deep pragmatism requires us to acknowledge that the Northern Tribe values freedom because freedom genuinely leads to human flourishing.
And the Southern Tribe values equality because equality genuinely prevents human suffering.
Right. It uses universal human experiences, basically the shared desire to be happy and avoid pain, as the common currency.
It demands that we use our prefrontal cortex to objectively weigh those outcomes rather than letting our amygdalas wage a tribal war.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? For you, the listener, navigating the friction of your everyday life, think about the next time you find yourself absolutely furious at a political debate on television.
Or incredibly frustrated by a coworker or neighbor whose viewpoint seems utterly alien.
The biological temptation is to label them as stupid, selfish, or outright evil.
But Greene's framework reveals a much more nuanced reality. You are likely just watching the tragedy of common sense morality play out in real time.
They aren't inherently evil.
No. They're simply running on their tribe's automatic settings, vigorously defending the moral operating system that kept their ancestors alive, just as you are running on yours.
You are both using incredible moral machinery that was unfortunately designed to win a turf war, not to find common ground. Recognizing that evolutionary glitch is the very first step to kicking away the ladder.
It really is.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If our moral outrage, that addictive feeling of righteous anger, is often just an automatic setting designed by evolution to help our ancient tribe win a turf war, what automatic setting are you letting run your life right now?
What deeply held, unquestioned conviction might just be your own localized tribal programming.
And what would happen if today you forced yourself to switch to manual mode?
It is arguably the most difficult task a human brain can perform, but it might be the only viable way we all survive together on the new pastures.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning your settings.